It's like
Okay.
restarting a story on a video game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like reloading a checkpoint. Yep, that's what we're
Yeah.
doing here. Okay. Yeah. So hi, I'm Andrew, and we're here to talk through the Shadows set of from Call of the Archons. I have Mark here with me. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
It's still going well. For I did a bad, and we were like partway through this, and I hadn't been recording audio, so um, ho- hopefully hopefully we sound just as excited this time through. We hadn't made it through all the way through the commons yet, so that's at least good. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's jump in with our three questions. So Mark, when you are opening up a Call of the Archons deck and you see that it has shadows, what capabilities are you hoping to get out of shadows?
Well, when I think of shadows, I think the word stealing is
Hmm.
definitely high up in my almost synonyms with the word shadows.
Yeah.
Shadows, when you see it on your card, you immediately think, "Oh, how much amber am I going to be able to steal from my opponent in this
Hmm.
game that I deck?" So definitely lots of stealing.
Yep. Yeah, and in addition to that, I hope to get some direct damage effects, maybe some elusive creatures that can do cool stuff.
Hmm.
Some poison effects. So they have I think the only two creatures in the game that have poison, and so far anyway, and some artifact manipulation in the form of Nexus, which I think is the most common artifact manipulation.
Yes, yes.
Um, okay, and when you what is your favorite combo in Shadows?
Hmm. Favorite combo in Shadows. I'd have to say that like it's just basically a amalgamation of a bunch of the different common cards.
Hmm.
Um, these common cards are the strongest in the game, and being able to not only control your opponent's amber and work towards the goal of the game of gathering amber to forge keys is great. So any combination of um, Ghostly Hand, Nerve Blast, Relentless Whispers, Pawn Sacrifice, Urchin, all these cards is just a great way to be able to build a turn and build your board state and control your opponent.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and for me, it's miasma and bait and switch. The ability to set up your opponent with miasma so that they have to generate, well, so that they're already at six, but or even over, and then they have a turn where they're probably going to generate at least some amber. Can really set you up for a nice bait and switch where you suck a lot of amber over to your side, which is really
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
that is a great combo.
Yeah, so when you open a deck and you see that it has shadows on the Archon card, what other houses are you would you be excited to see next to it?
I would say either I would say and Untamed would be my favorites. One of my favorite decks that I own is Dis Shadows Untamed. But one of my other favorite decks is Dis Shadows and Mars, and that
Hmm.
is a great combo. Being able to protect your Shadows creatures with Taunt, being able to control key costs through like Grabber Jammer, and control your opponent's Amber through Mars as well. They have some great capture abilities, so
Hmm.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. For me, it's Logos. I feel like Shadows benefits so much from the ability to get the right cards deployed at the right time to manage your opponent's Amber, and Logos has a lot of tools for deck manipulation. You have archives. You just have the ability to set tools aside for later to try to get, cycle your deck and get tools into your hand,
Mhm.
and have them when the time is right. So yeah, I like to see Logos.
Love it.
Um, cool. All right, let's jump into the cards. So the first one is the iconic bait and switch, which keeps stealing from your opponent until they no longer have more than you.
Yeah. I would definitely say that this card, when I think in the future when we think of the set Call of the Archons, this is the card that's going to come to mind. It is such a good card, and it's I'd say the poster child of this entire set. Everyone wants this in their deck. Everyone that in fact, the top two decks this today that were in the finals of the Eindhoven Vault
Hmm.
Tour both had this card in their deck.
Hmm.
It is that good. People are seeking after it. People are calling it a broken card. It's but it is tough to play around.
Hmm.
The control that it's able to do, the control it's able to have both directly and indirectly is amazing.
Yeah. Now I will just to throw a wedge there. Um, the Seattle Vault Tour was sealed, not Archon. So a little slightly different field there, but it was interesting to me. The top deck there did not even have shadows.
Hmm,
So
that's cool.
so definitely not required to win, but I completely agree with you. It's a very strong card, and if anytime I open up shadows and I don't see bait and switch, I'm disappointed. Um,
Yes.
and
Yes.
interestingly, you can only get one of these. You won't get two.
Right. Right. Yeah. The algorithm limits each deck to just one of these cards.
Yep. Okay. Cool. So next up is Ghostly Hand. You gain 2 amber, and if your opponent has exactly one, then you steal it. Possibly a
This
4 amber swing.
Yeah, besides bait and switch, this card has the most potential. Well, I guess also besides too much to protect, had the most potential for Amber Swing in Shadows.
Mm,
Um, so being able to have a 4 Amber Swing behind it is amazing. However, from experience, most of the time it does not get that
yeah.
lovely 4 Amber Swing. But it's still a great card. Even if you only play it for the 2 amber,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I think the optimal case is that you get it in a hand with a couple other cards that can steal, and that way, if your opponent is, say, at 2, 3, 4, you have a chance of dropping them down to one where you can use this. And sometimes I've been in that case and actually managed to do that and then just leave, for example, an urchin I left in my hand because I just thought, well, at later on, I can still get a reliable steal out of this. Um, but I was able to play another urchin from my hand, and that was how I dropped my opponent down into ghostly hand range. So, yeah, if you have support, it helps a lot, but
Hmm.
not not so likely to fire on its own.
Right, right, exactly, exactly.
Cool.
It takes a little bit of setup if you want to do it.
Yeah. Yep, and especially not likely to hit those ghostly hand steals if you are using miasma, which gains you an amber and then causes your opponent to skip the forge a key step on their next turn. And this is the only card that you can play that would cause your opponent to skip their turn or to skip their forge a key step.
Yes, yes. Now, of course, the important thing to remember with this card is it does not stop them from forging a key during their turn. So,
Right.
key abduction, key of darkness, like all these other
Hmm.
um, forge a key cards
Hmm.
are viable during that
Yeah.
turn. Those cards are not easy to use, thankfully. So,
Hmm.
besides Chota Hazri and Key Charge, those are way easier to use than the other two.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a really strong card. Not too situational, and just about every situation where it's played, it's good, even if it's just for the amber.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. For sure. Okay, and then next we have Nerve Blast, which steals an amber, and if you do, you deal 2 damage to a creature. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then earlier you were saying like this, it's it's you automatically just would compare this to Relentless Whispers. They're so similar, right?
Definitely. Definitely. This and Nerve Blast and Relentless Whispers are super similar cards, but whenever I'm comparing them, Relentless Whispers usually comes out on top as the better card, just
Mm-hmm.
because it has potential for more amber
Mm-hmm.
swing and like being able to deal damage and steal and having the potential to steal one. And on top of that, you get an amber just for playing the card.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way better card in my opinion than Nerve Blast. Um, Obviously, it takes more thought and planning to land than Nerve Blast does. Nerve
Mm-hmm.
Blast is play it, steal an amber.
Yeah.
Um, but definitely way better payoff.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um, cool. And then next up we have Pawn Sacrifice, which gains you an amber. You sacrifice a friendly creature, and if you do, you deal 2 damage each to 2 creatures.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Solid.
yeah. This is great to use on those small one
Mm-hmm.
power common creatures and shadows like
Mm-hmm.
Urchin and Bad Penny, even Silvertooth.
Mm-hmm.
That don't have a whole lot going for them
Yeah.
after they're put out. So there's definitely a couple of creatures that are good to use this on in this house.
Yep. Yeah, and I think even sometimes I'll use it on something that's just like really close to dead anyway, if I don't have a better target. But yeah, if I can get it
Hmm.
on one of those one power, that's great. Um, okay, next we have Poison Wave, which gives you an amber and then deals 2 damage to each creature.
Yep. Yeah. Poison Wave. Definitely not a card you want to play when you have a bunch of Shadows creatures out.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are not very high power.
Mm-hmm.
So it will destroy your Bad Pennies, your Urchins, Umbras, Silvertooth, Naughty the Thief, all these creatures that you're most likely to have in your deck.
Yeah.
So it's definitely can be feels bad man for that, especially if you don't reap with those creatures before you use it.
Yeah.
But it's great being able to combo this, like I was saying earlier, with Relentless Whispers, Nerve
Mm-hmm.
Blast, Ghostly Hand, all these other cards that work really well together.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. There's a lot of creatures that are going to be in Relentless Whispers range after a Poison Wave.
Hmm. There was a game I had one time where I had a Bulwark that
Mm-hmm.
I had captured a couple of amber on it,
Mm-hmm.
and um, my opponent had 6 amber, and I needed to be able to um, steal amber to be able to forge my key. So effectively, what I needed to do was kill my own bulwark, which is
Uh
extremely hard. It was full health, full armor,
huh.
so I had to use Poison Wave. I used a Pawn Sacrifice on it. I
Mm-hmm.
then used Relentless Whispers on it. Actually, I used Relentless Whispers on it, and then I used Too Much to Protect. And I was able to use one more steel card to get that last uh, get him under 6 and get me over 6, and it was
Nice.
great. It was such a great moment.
Yep. Yep. That direct damage.
Hmm.
Cool. Okay. And then into artifact territory here, we have Seeker Needle, which exhausts to do a damage to a creature, and if you destroy the creature with that damage, then you gain an amber. Um,
Hmm.
Pretty good
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
can hit it.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly true. If you can hit it, it does go well with Bad Penny, which is our next card, of
Hmm.
course. But it's it's so funny using this card a lot of times because um, half the time there's not really a whole lot you can use it on.
Right.
So you just end up feeling like you're throwing a pebble at a giant. Sometimes, literally, like
Hmm.
sometimes you literally do 1 damage to a giant.
Yeah.
From Brobnar, and you're like, oh, that didn't do much, but
Yeah.
um, yeah.
But you make little progress, and I think
Hmm.
yeah. Sometimes if you have 2 of these, you have a good chance of one of them going off. And if you can pair this with. There's certain other cards that pair really well with this, but yeah, you're right. It definitely depends on the situation.
Yeah. Depends on the situation and depends on the other cards in the deck to make this card good.
Yep, for sure. Okay, and then yeah, and then here we are on Bad Penny, which is a 1 power creature, and when she's destroyed, she goes back to your hand like a bad penny.
Yeah. Just like a bad penny. It's um you know, this card is underrated. So many people don't realize that it's so many people don't realize how many different combos you can use it with. And I've commented on so many different posts about Bad Penny being a bad card because Shadows is built for this card, like being able to gain an amber from Secret Needle,
Mm-hmm.
Relentless Whispers, um, being able to, um, yeah, basically destroy it to gain amber is just a great ability.
Yeah, for sure. I think the trick is having that right support for it, um, so that it makes sense, right? If you have the support cards like Pawn Sacrifice and Seeker Needle,
Hmm.
Relentless Whispers, then it opens up a lot of really great opportunities. You just have to have those cards for it to be there, for it to
Right,
be
that is
useful.
true. It is combo dependent to be good.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Okay, next up is Nexus, um, who I think is pulled straight out of Snow Crash. But anyway, 3 power, elusive, and when he reaps, you use an opponent's artifact as if it were yours. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the fact that he's elusive makes him a bit more annoying
Hmm.
than he I feel he should be.
Yeah.
But the because already when he reaps using an opponent's artifact as if it was theirs, um, they you, your opponent does not ready your artifacts for you at the end of your
Right.
turn. So when you get to your turn, it's an exhausted artifact in
Hmm.
your on your side of the board. So it's definitely
Exhausted or sacrificed in the
or
worst case, right?
sacrificed. Yes, yes, definitely. It's a great card to get rid of those omni um sacrificable artifacts because those can be pretty powerful. Using this
Yeah.
on like an Nepenthe seed or something like that,
Hmm.
it basically forces your opponent to use those omni artifacts faster than they wanted to. So
Yeah.
yeah, great card. I love being able to just keep on exhausting my opponent's artifacts with it as long as it's out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it really depends on if you're really worried about your opponent having artifacts, then having a Nexus is really good. If they don't have artifacts, it's a silly card, but
Hmm.
definitely good in the right situation.
One thing though you need to be careful of is
Hmm.
using this card for something like Pocket Universe or Safe Place when that's the only artifact on your opponent's side of the
Uh
board.
huh.
Do not reap with Nexus. It will literally take one of your amber and put it on there, and you
Mm,
can't get it back.
right, and this is because the use effect is not May.
Right, it is
Right,
not
yeah,
May. You must use an
yeah.
artifact on your opponent's side of
If
the
you
board
can.
as if it were
Yep.
yours.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yep.
just be aware of that and be careful when you're playing it.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have Naughty the Thief, who is 2 power, elusive, and exhausts to steal one.
Hmm.
Pretty good.
Yep, uses that action. Another hard card to keep out.
Hmm.
It's usually a high priority target to get rid of. Being able to exhaust to steal one
Hmm.
is such a great ability.
Yep.
You don't need to put it in any danger to be able to steal, and just sits there and steals away if you
Yep.
don't get rid of it. So yeah, yeah.
Yep. For sure. Then we have Dodger, who is 5 power, which is pretty big for shadows,
Mm-hmm.
and has fight steal 1. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty big for shadows, but unless it has the next card we're talking about next to it, Shadow Self, it
Hmm.
usually survives long enough to steal maybe one, maybe
Yeah.
two amber.
Yep.
It's usually, and if you put it out, then your opponent does even 2 damage to it. It's almost useless for stealing. So
Yeah.
um, it's pretty hard to steal with it sometimes, but the best way to use it is fighting against elusive creatures because you fight with it against an elusive creature, it's not dealt any damage, it still steals, and then you're able to destroy the elusive creature with another
Right.
creature later on.
Yep.
So, yeah, great.
Yep.
Um, it's a great card. It's 5 power, most likely because it's not elusive
Right.
or it doesn't have skirmish. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just to buff it up a little bit, make it survivable for a bit longer than it would be.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And then, so yeah, next up we have Shadow Self, which is 9 power. That's very large, one of the biggest creatures in the game,
Hmm.
and damage that is dealt to non-specter neighbors is dealt to Shadow Self instead. The only specter in the game, by the way, is Shadow Self, so it just means they don't take damage for each other.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so damage dealt to its neighbors goes to it instead. Um, but it does not deal any damage when fighting, so um, you can't use this to knock over big stuff,
Hmm.
and your opponent can fight this with impunity.
Right. And it's basically like a big meat shield for whatever other
Yeah.
powerful creature you have hiding behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like I consider it a more annoying version of taunt.
Yeah.
You can fight the creatures that are next to it, but it won't do anything because this takes all the damage.
Right.
So, um, yeah, you need to find a way to get rid of this card when it's out, because it's usually protecting something that has a pretty devastating ability next to it.
Yeah, that's the dream anyway, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, yeah, interesting rules note here. If you put a bulwark next to Shadow Self, and then your opponent fights your bulwark, um, the bulwark's 2 armor will will soak up some damage, and then the damage that would have been dealt to the bulwark gets dealt to the Shadow Self instead. But when it does, the Shadow Self's 2 armor from the bulwark also soak up damage. So
Hmm.
if you were to deal 6 damage to a bulwark, which is next to a Shadow Self, the Shadow Self will take 2 damage. Now, why you would do that instead of just dealing the damage directly to the Shadow Self, I'm not sure. But if it ever comes up, there's that sort of weird. It goes through
Yeah.
the armor twice. Okay.
Yeah. Usually, it's best just to directly attack it.
Yep. For sure. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. So next up is Silvertooth. Silvertooth is 2 power, and he comes out ready. That's
Hmm.
it.
I have it most of the time with this card. I don't fight with it. It's 2 power. If I put it
Yep.
out, it's usually just a guaranteed amber for
Yep.
reaping. I have a deck that comes with this card and 2 silent daggers.
Yeah.
So I get this card in my hand a lot with silent dagger,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to play it out, reap with it, and do 4 damage to a flank creature is so awesome. Like all in the same turn. It's great.
Yeah, and we'll see. There's a couple of upgrades in Shadows that are really good with Silvertooth, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
But
Definitely.
we'll come around to them. Okay. Um, next up is Umbra, who is only 2 power but has fight, steal 1, and skirmish.
Yeah,
Um,
basically bat drone, but in shadows.
yep. Yep. There's even the little
Nothing.
flying thing here that looks
Yeah,
almost like a bat drone.
yeah. Nothing too unique about this card compared to bat drone,
Yep.
but yeah, it's a fantastic addition to this lineup of creatures. I feel it fits better in this house than bat drone does in logos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Um, cool. And then we have Urchin, who a cute little thing that has only one power and
I don't
elusive,
know. He's pretty ugly to me.
and steals one when played. I mean, oh, it's oh, he just wants to please. He just wants to please. Come
You
on.
see that frog guy in the background? He's
I
just like
know.
yelling at him. He's just
I know.
yeah,
Angry frog guy.
yeah.
Um, I always feel bad, when I wipe out my opponent's urchins. I feel like they needed help. They didn't need to be attacked. All right. Um, all right. So now we're into the uncommons, and the first uncommon we'll touch on here is Booby Trap, which I always think is going to be an artifact, and then I have to remember, no, it's an action.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There is an artifact like it though.
right, right. And Booby Trap actually really similar to Lava Ball from Brobnar.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But
You're right.
gains you an amber and then deals 4 damage to a creature that is not on a flank, so there's that stipulation. And then it deals 2 splash damage, which means that 2 damage hits the neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
So,
pretty hard to set up early game. So
mhm.
if I see this card in my hand early game, I usually get rid of it.
Right, you're
By
not going to get that
mulliganing.
full value out of it.
Yeah, yeah. So if I happen to get it back on my mulligan, obviously it's a free amber. That's great. But
Hmm.
it's not usually totally effective until a few turns into the game where there's more
Right.
creatures.
Yep. But worst case, you get an amber. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
next up, Hidden Stash gives you an amber and you archive a card. It is library access. Not library access, but
Lab work.
lab work. Yeah, that one.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. I was just about to say that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and another very similar to Logos card in
yeah.
Hidden Stash here. Uh,
Yeah,
just
but
like
I think a little higher value actually in Shadows, just because Shadows has so many great archive targets.
you're right. Yes. Yeah, being able to put a card away for later, say bait and switch or too much to protect, not have it clogging up your hand, is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm
Cool.
actually surprised that I haven't gotten too many of these, even though it's uncommon. I haven't
Yeah.
gotten too many of these cards. In fact, I don't think I have any actually. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Gotta go ask Brad to print you more. Uh,
right. Send me more now that I'm best friends with them.
yeah. Yeah. That's right. Got that Reddit post. Cool. Okay. Um, so lights out gains you an amber and lets you put 2 Schulers into your opponent's hand. Uh, hopefully not Schuler. But it lets you return 2 enemy creatures to your opponent's hand, which is
Yes.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Can
But
be pretty good.
the stipulation of this card is you must return two
Right.
enemy creatures to your opponent's hand. Just got to remember that if they do happen to have bad play abilities that will affect you, or
Yeah.
good play abilities that will affect you, this card is definitely a lot harder to play out of your hand.
Yep. Yep. For sure.
Hmm.
Okay. Next up is Oubliette. You purge a creature with power 3 or lower. Wow.
Yeah.
Purge.
Direct removal.
Goodbye.
You don't need to worry about Shadow Self. You don't need to worry about Taunt. It's just remove it
Right.
from the game. It's not even destroyed. It's just straight up purged.
Yeah, even Armageddon Cloak won't
Hmm.
save a creature from this. Yep.
Yep, because it just goes straight past destroy to purge. It's
Yep.
awesome. And just the fact that I believe the average power of creatures in this game right now is like 3.4 or
Hmm.
something like that. So there's a ton of creatures that are right around 3 or lower.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. This is a good way to deal with your Dexter. Uh,
Play it on your own, Dexter.
yes. Okay. Too much to protect. You gain an amber, and you steal all but 6 of your opponent's amber. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, all but 6. This card can have multiples of it in there. Um, I haven't seen too many with more than one of these in there,
Hmm.
because it is an uncommon card.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a great way to get your opponent down to 6, and then even using other cards to combo with it, like Urchin or Nerve Blast, to
Right.
get them below foraging cost, is great.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, all it takes is one more, right,
Hmm.
to knock it
Hmm.
down. So pretty good.
And in
Or
Shadows,
even
it's not too hard to do.
right, yeah, even a skeleton key can do it.
Hmm. Which
Uh,
happens to be our next card.
yeah, Segway magic. Yeah. So skeleton key is an artifact that exhausts to cause a friendly creature to capture one. Very annoying.
Yeah, so this card was actually um, the key card in being able and allowing this. So I was watching this game of the one of the guys I know from my local game store,
Uh huh.
and he was top 8 in the Seattle Vault Tour,
Uh huh.
and that's out of 170 people. A ton of
Uh huh.
people joined up tour,
Awesome.
and so it came down to he had 6 amber, but his opponent had a nexus out on the board.
Hmm.
He used the skeleton key to capture that last amber. He needed to forge a key. His opponent had 12 amber at that point, so he was able to forge on his next turn.
Oof.
And yeah, it was super close game. This card made all the difference.
Yep. Yep. For
I
the wrong player, but yeah,
Right,
totally. No,
yeah,
it's a strong card.
yeah. It's a weird card in Shadows,
Hmm.
capturing instead of stealing.
Yep.
Uh, it's it doesn't feel totally at home,
Hmm.
but it's yeah, it's definitely a great card.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's like extra annoying because you have a lot of elusive stuff to capture onto.
Oh yeah,
I
oh
mean,
yeah.
even you drop even onto your one strength urchin, and it's annoying because of that elusive.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, cool. All right. So special delivery gains you an amber when you play it, and then it's an artifact, and later on you can sacrifice it to complete the delivery. Um, and you deal 3 damage to a flank creature, so that's a stipulation there, but to a flank creature, and if this damage destroys the creature, then you purge it.
Mhm,
Pretty
mhm.
cool. Yet
Yeah,
another way to deal with your
cool.
Dexter.
Cool purge ability. Well, it wouldn't actually purge the Dexter.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, you're
No,
right. You're right.
yeah, because the Dexter would go
Oh,
straight back to the top of your pile.
oh,
This wouldn't
oh.
do that. It
Yeah, we
doesn't do
just need
it for
more
Bad Penny
oubliettes. Okay.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. Okay,
So, yeah. So
but
the
great.
Dexter's a bit harder to get rid of.
Yeah, for sure. But great way to deal with your opponent's Fagin or
Uh-huh.
um,
Uh-huh. Yeah, being
Bolter
able
or
to,
something like that.
yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Even their toxins or all those other 3 power creatures.
Yep. Cool. Okay. So the next artifact here it has been my downfall many a time, and this is Speed Sigil, which gains you an amber, and then it's an artifact that says the first creature played each turn enters play ready, and I struggle with having this help my opponent more than me in a lot of situations. I'm always
I
worried about
played
that.
I played against someone who was super good at using this totally to their advantage.
Hmm.
They played it. Um, that basically they put it out, played a creature, did all this stuff on their turn with their shadow's turn, and then they sacrificed a life word to make me not be able to play any creatures on my next turn.
Oof.
Next turn they played Dis and destroyed it. And it was just such a masterful move, and they were able to
Yeah.
use it just to their advantage. It was great. So,
Yeah. You
um,
always have to be aware of that, and in some games it is definitely better to discard it.
yes, yes.
Cool.
I have been able to use it more than my opponent in lots of games.
Hmm.
It's a great card for your opponent a lot of times.
Yeah. Although, yeah, it depends, and there are sometimes definitely where it can be really good, but it it definitely depends. Cool. So next up is Subtle Maul, which is an artifact that exhausts to make your opponent discard a random card from their hand.
It's basically like a artifact. It's an artifact version of Toxin from Dis. Super annoying to play against if you have an opponent that has maybe even like two of these on their Shadow's
Yeah.
turn. Being able to have both of those out and lower your hand size. Hand size is such a huge component of this game. Being able
Mm-hmm.
to keep the maximum number of cards in your hand,
Yeah.
and it greatly increases your chances of winning the game if you have at least 6 cards in your hand every single turn. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Subtle Maul definitely messes with that.
So I agree with you if there's multiple effects like this going on. I actually I suspect that mathematically speaking, having one of this is better for your opponent 2/3 of the time. And the reason I say that is because if you have 6 cards in your hand, you're looking at them and you're thinking, what do I want to play? You pick a house. You think this is the house I want to play. Your opponent, they use Subtle Maul. Well, there is a well, I guess it's better. It's probably better than a 1 in 3 chance. But let's say you had 3 cards from the same house and you were going to pick that house. Then they have a 50% chance of hitting a card from that house, right? And let's
Mm-hmm.
say you were actually 2-2-2. Well, then they only have a 1 in 3 chance of hitting that. And in that case, if they hit something that you weren't going to play anyway, um, then uh, it doesn't affect you that much, right? Well, it doesn't affect you
Right.
at all, and actually the effect that it has is that you get to draw another new card at the end of your turn. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good if it hits high value targets. That can be good, but it's not always better. That having said that, that's the math. Anytime I'm across the table from it, it feels real bad. so I might
I,
just be doing the math wrong, but
I usually get too attached to my cards. I can get too attached to my cards, I should
yeah,
say. And I don't like losing cards out of my hand without me making myself lose them.
yeah,
It
yep,
doesn't feel good to lose them because of your opponent, but yeah, mathematically you are correct. It can be a good thing,
yeah,
but once it does start getting into multiples of this card, it can get pretty bad.
yeah, yep. Okay. So next up, we're into creature territory here, and we start with Carlo Phantom, who has elusive and skirmish, and each time you play an artifact, steal an amber. That can be pretty good.
Yes. There's one time though I was playing sealed. I got a deck with Carlo Phantom and one artifact,
Mm-hmm.
a secret needle. So it's
Play the
basically
Secret Needle, and then
yeah,
on the next Shadow's turn, you kill the Carlo Phantom.
right, right. Yeah, that's usually that. I didn't even get to do that. I don't think. Most of the time, I just ended up playing out the Carlo Phantom, and then he gets destroyed, and then I play out the Secret Needle like 3 turns later, or
Yep.
something like that. It was very inconsistent. But if you happen to have a deck with this and a few other artifacts in it, and maybe
Yeah.
couple that with the card like Oath of Poverty,
Mm-hmm.
it can be amazing.
Yeah. Big engine.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So next up is Masus Asp, who has power 3, skirmish, and poison. And poison, because people might not have seen this much. Poison says that if you do even a single damage, then you destroy the creature you're fighting.
This is such a great creature. Like being able to just destroy a creature by doing a single point of damage to it
Mm-hmm.
feels so great.
Yep.
It's so great.
Yeah.
And um yeah, I'm a fan.
So I'm gonna pull Mooncursor over next because this is another like kind of obvious comparison. These are the two creatures with poison. So Mooncursor also has skirmish and poison, and it has fight steal 1, which is really good. But it only has 1 power, and to me, I mean, that first of all, that fight steal one is fantastic. I love that. Um, I mean, for things without armor, this means you can kill any opponent's creature and steal at the same time. That's great.
Hmm.
Um, the advantage the Mace's has in exchange for not being able to steal is that it can get through. It can get through the armor of any, the base armor of any creature in the game. The only way it's not going to kill that creature is if it has, it already has armor and it has a bulwark next to it, or something
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but this will get through the base armor of any creature in the game and kill it.
Yeah.
So trade offs.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Oh, by the
uh huh,
way, it is also I love noticing things like this though
uh huh.
about um the aspects of each creature. I don't know what those tiny words are called below the name, but
Oh yeah, the
it
traits.
is a
Yeah.
trait. It is a beast
Uh huh.
creature, which means say you have a Niffle Queen
Oh
from
yeah.
Untamed out, it gets +1 power from
Oh
that.
yeah.
It can be comboed with other cards that
Yeah.
affect the trait of
Huh.
um of those creatures.
Nice. Um, nice. An opponent throw out a moon cursor today,
Oh
and
yeah,
worried for a second, and then I remembered I had an urchin sitting there on the board, so I killed their
nice.
moon cursor with an urchin, which felt very good for me. Um,
That does feel good.
yeah. Cool. Okay. Next up is Magda the Rat, and by the weird note, this is probably not borne out in the statistics, but I think so far almost every deck that I've had or that one of my kids has had that has Moon Cursor in it also has Mace's Asp. They seem to go together. Um,
That's
and
interesting.
and I don't think that's anything intentional, but it seems like that happens a lot.
I don't have a single moon cursor, and I have
Hmm.
a bunch of maces
Okay.
asps.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely a more lucky thing on your end.
Cool. Um, okay. So next up is Magda the Rat, which is a 4 power creature with elusive, and when you play Magda, you steal 2. But when Magda leaves play, your opponent steals 2. And actually, I'm going to let you talk for a second while I let my dog in my backyard.
Okay. Yeah. Magda the Rat is a awesome card. Um, there's a lot of strategy that you can use to be able to use this card properly. So obviously, when you play it, usually what I'm looking to do when I play this card is to steal Amber so that I can forge a key on my next turn and then destroy this card and have you steal less back than I stole from you. So being able to strategize that way, obviously it doesn't work out that way, but being able to use this card to steal, maybe reap with it another turn or two so that you can get some other value out of it is
Mm-hmm.
an awesome thing that you can use this card for. So,
Yeah, totally. Paw. Oh, yes, that's a good dog. Okay. Cool. Okay, next up is Old Bruno. And yeah, I think this is the only, other than the skeleton key, this is the only capture in Shadows.
hmm.
But it's pretty strong. So Old Bruno is only 3 power, but has elusive and captures 3 on play, which can be pretty
Such an
devastating.
annoying card to play against. It's like a better version of Charette because he has
Hmm.
elusive.
Yeah.
Like being able to capture 3 and he's 3 power, so he's not easy to get rid of in the first place. So
Yep.
because you can't just nerve blast him and get him out of there,
Right.
you need to actually work to get rid of this card. So it's can be annoying to get rid of.
Yeah. Very, very quite annoying. Yep. Okay. Next up is Dusk Runner, which is a very nice upgrade to throw on a creature that doesn't want to fight. Throw it on there, and the creature gains Reap, steal one. Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean this goes great with Silvertooth. It goes great with just about any other card that you would rather reap with, say
Yeah.
Magda the Rat. Don't
Yep.
necessarily want to fight with that one. Um, yeah, great with those or even old Bruno. So
Uh huh.
cards that you don't want to fight with that you would rather reap with, throw this on there. It's a great Shadows card, being able to steal just by you gain an amber and steal just through reaping. It's great. So
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of the same things could be said for the next one, Silent Dagger, um, which actually gains you an amber when you play it, but instead of stealing, does 4 damage to a flank creature, which is quite a lot.
yes, yes, another awesome Silvertooth upgrade, like I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
I'm a fan of this card. I do wish I had Dusk Runner in my deck instead of Silent Dagger,
Mm,
but at least one of the Silent Daggers was Dusk Runner. I wish that, but
yep.
it's awesome to be able to do damage without needing to fight, because there's those cards like Fog Bank or Fogify that
Yeah.
can keep you from fighting, but being able to still deal damage and not needing to fight
Hmm.
is a great upgrade ability.
Yeah. Yep. For sure. Um, yeah. The one important thing to be aware of being that it doesn't say may, so if you don't have any enemy creatures to deal the damage to, you're gonna have to deal them to your own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So all right, here we are on the rares, and we'll start off with Finishing Blow, which gains you an amber. You destroy a damaged creature, and if you do, steal one. That's that's pretty good.
Yeah. This is like an action card version of Anomaly Exploiter from Logos.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
being but with the added
Yeah.
ability of being able to steal one from destroying
Right.
that creature. It's not too hard with shadows to get damage onto a creature.
Right.
There's lots of direct damage. Um, you can take out any creature, by the way, with this
Hmm.
card.
Hmm.
It's basic and excuse me. It's effectively poison in an action card.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Pretty good. Um. Yeah, and like you said, there are just so many ways to get one damage. Even with a bad penny or urchin, something like that. Throw a single ping of damage, and then you can just take it down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, Next up is Imperial Trader, which gains an amber, and then you look at your opponent's hand. You may choose and purge a Sanctum card in it.
This card is one of the only house hate cards that is actually pretty good,
Hmm.
because it has an ability in it that doesn't depend on the other person having that house in the card. So you get an amber for playing it.
Sure.
It doesn't matter whether or not they have Sanctum in their that your opponent has Sanctum in their deck.
Yeah.
You can take a look at their hand and know what they have the ability to play on their next turn.
Right.
So being able to play this, say you have this plan to generate a ton of amber, you look at their hand and they have bait and switch in there, your plan immediately changes to do something else with your turn
Right.
So um,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think it's particularly good. If you can have a oh man, can't think of it now, but the one that uh, puts 2 of their creatures back into their hand. Um, if you can do that, so then you can basically purge one of those, even though it was really big. That can be good.
mhm.
And I think more than anything, this is Vault Keeper hate, right? If you can purge an opponent's Vault Keeper, you've done the thing. That's the Sanctum card that causes your opponent, your amber, to not be stealable.
Hmm.
Um, so if you could nail one of those with Imperial Trader, that would just be fantastic.
Definitely. Or
Uh,
even a gatekeeper. That's like a
mm-hmm.
lesser version of that,
Yep.
but it still does the same thing as
Yep.
sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay. So next up, Key of Darkness, which forges a key at +6 current cost. Um, but if your opponent has no amber, then you do it at +2 cost instead, which is actually can actually be pretty good.
Can actually be pretty good. Usually, if you're able, not it's not too many times that you start your turn with your opponent at 0 amber. Most of the time, they have generated something during their turn.
Right.
So dealing with shadows, you would have to get them down to 0 amber for that to be able to happen.
Yep.
It's definitely doable
Hmm.
if you're playing shadows for this to happen. Key of Darkness is a really hard card to play because it's extremely situational. It's not often you're able to make it up to 12 amber
Right.
in one turn. Usually, if you have 6 at the beginning of your turn, even you're
Yeah.
able to you forge a key and then you're at 0. So you'd have to start your turn with at least 5 and then generate 7 more. It's just really really hard to do. So I have, however, used this card one time to
Hmm.
win a game.
Hmm.
So it's not
Yeah.
undoable. It's just really hard to pull off.
Yeah. And I think like uh, so one example of a card that would make it easier to pull off the +2 would be like Old Bruno, right? Which has a pretty big swing just in terms of lowering their what
Hmm.
your opponent has, even though it's not permanent.
Yeah,
So I'd love to
yeah.
see one of these in a deck with a couple of Old Brunos.
Oh, that would be awesome. And I bet you that does exist.
Yeah. Cool. So next up is One Last Job, which gains you an amber and then purges each friendly shadows creature, and you steal 1 amber for each creature purged this way. This seems like a good late game card.
It's a good card just about any time during the game, actually. When you start playing a game, most of the time, unless you're playing in a logos deck or something that cycles through the deck a whole lot, then it can be okay.
Uh huh.
Um, but it can actually be pretty bad because you would have gotten the creatures back. But if you're going through a deck that can win by the time you've gone through it one time,
Mm-hmm.
putting out some shadows creatures and then using one last job to purge them to steal
Uh huh.
is amazing. It's an
Uh huh.
amazing ability. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I would say it's a pretty good card no matter the situation,
Mm-hmm.
unless you have a fast like a deck that cycles a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, Routine job. You don't gain an amber. It's just you steal one, and you steal one for each copy of routine job in your discard pile.
Hmm.
Um, so potentially, I mean, if you have 2 of these and you play them one after the other, you've stolen 2 or 3. You've stolen 3 at that point, right?
Yes, yeah, you've stolen 3 at that point. So because for the first one you steal one,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that goes into effect, the card goes into the discard pile. The second one, you steal one, and then you wait. I thought you would just steal one more. I think
You
because
steal one for playing the card, and you steal one for each copy. So yeah, so if you have 2 of them, you play one, you steal one. Play the second one, you steal 2.
got
Yeah.
it. Yes, yeah, that's how it works. Um, yeah. So questions and answers on this card, just really quick. If
Mm-hmm.
I play a copy of routine job, does that copy count as in my discard pile when I resolve it? No, it does not. So
Mm.
it just need to remember that. the card ability doesn't resolve
Hmm.
fully. Sorry, you don't put the card into the discard pile until the ability resolves fully. So
Hmm.
this card
Right.
does stack extremely well with multiple copies of it. There
Right.
are decks out there with 4 of these
Yep.
cards in it that can steal so much. I think that's a total of 1, 3, uh, set, no, 1, 3,
6,
6,
and then 10. Yep.
10. Yeah, a total of 10. That's just
Yeah,
crazy.
it's
So,
funny. I was searching decks that have 3 of these. There are like 205 decks
hmm
with 4. There are 150. So if you have 3, you probably have 4. Um,
yes,
but there's a
yes,
lot of decks with 2 of them.
yes. They do come in pairs, I believe. I
Hmm.
believe that's in the algorithm that they do come in at least pairs.
At least, yeah, because there are, yeah, for sure. Yep, there are no decks with exactly 1, but there are decks with exactly 3. Anyway, yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
just to take a little step backwards, by the way,
hmm.
there are 7 decks out there with at least 1 Key of Darkness and 3
Ah,
Old Bruno.
nice, nice. Yeah,
It's a pretty cool combo.
yeah. Seems like it could be good. Okay, cool. Okay, so next up is Treasure Map, which is an action that gains you an amber. If you have not played any other cards this turn, gain 3 amber, and for the remainder of the turn, you can't play cards. Um,
Now,
do you play
new.
this opening turn?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It is a great card to play opening turn. However, it really catches you off guard when it's played in the middle of the game. It's
Hmm.
a hard card to play around, especially if, say, you don't have your opponent doesn't have even any creatures or artifacts on their side of the board because you just
Hmm.
spent your turn destroying everything, and then they play this out and they're suddenly able to forge a key again. So it's
Sure.
it's a crazy card to play,
Yep.
and being able to gain 4 amber without your opponent gaining any amber, like
Hmm.
fertility chant, is
Yep.
a um, amazing ability for a card.
Yep. Yeah. Important clarifications. You can discard cards.
hmm
Um, and also you can use cards. So if you have cards already on the table, there's nothing. This doesn't restrict you from using them.
Right, right. That is true.
Cool. Okay. So customs office. We were talking about this earlier. Really nice if you can drop it early, and for the rest, well, as long as it's out there, your opponent has to pay you an amber in order
hmm
to play an artifact.
Yeah. I love the art on this card. It's just all these grumpy people trying to get past this Shadows guy who's built this shack, just checking people as they're
Yeah,
going by,
this doesn't seem
asking for
official.
their amber. I feel like that should be the flavor text, by the way.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
um, it's it's an awesome. I don't know if there's decks that exist with 2 of these in it, but it's just being able to either prevent, like, it makes your opponent think about whether or not they want to play artifacts at all. So
Yeah.
um, being able to make your opponent second guess their artifacts is awesome. It's because there's some pretty crazy artifacts as we've seen out there.
Yep. Yeah, there actually are 200 something decks that have 2 copies, and there's a deck that has 3 copies.
That's
Eh,
brutal.
that would be fun. Okay, fun, quote
Yeah.
unquote. Okay. All right. Next up is Evasion Sigil, which has a unique effect. It gains you an amber, and then before a creature fights, you discard the top card of its controller's deck. So if I'm fighting, if I have one of my creatures fighting, I discard the top card of my deck. If the discarded card is of the active house, exhaust that creature with no effect.
hmm
Whew.
Yeah. Amazing card for shadows. There's already a lot of elusive creatures in shadows, so this buffs those creatures up
Hmm.
even more by having a 33% chance
Yeah.
of missing.
Yeah.
So basically, a 33% evasion um, stat is awesome. Like
Yeah.
have 1 in 3 times they're going to exhaust their creature with no effect,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. This
yeah, that
is
creature's done for the turn.
yeah. This is pretty bad for Brobnar.
Hmm.
Makes Brobnar very sad.
Yeah, and
Uh,
the thing is, yeah, for Brobnar, while you're mentioning that, it's before a creature fights. So if you
right.
play a card like War Song, this
Yeah.
happens before the creature even fights. So War Song
Right.
doesn't even get to take effect
Right.
at all. So yeah, definitely messes with
Brutal.
turns like that.
Yep. For sure. Okay. Next we have a long fused minds, which gains you an amber. It's an artifact, and then it has Omni. You sacrifice it to deal 3 damage to each creature not on a flank. That's yours and theirs. Each creature
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
on a flank.
Oh, each enemy creature.
Oh, each. Oh, it is an only enemy. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Each enemy. Nice. Yeah. That's pretty good.
yeah. Not a card you want used by your opponent's Nexus, and
Yeah.
it's not a card that you want. Um, it does take a little bit of setup. It's great to use even if it's on one creature. Being able to just deal 3 damage to it is awesome.
Yep.
Um, but it does take a little bit of setup. The compensation for that little bit of setup is the amber you get from playing it,
Yep.
which is great.
Yeah.
So
And
um,
is that a shark fin sticking up out of the ice there? I can't
I
tell.
don't know.
It's very
Yeah, I'm
confusing.
not entirely sure myself. Let me see. I'm not sure.
Hmm. Feel like we're releasing the Kraken or something. Okay. Yeah. So next up is Master Plan. Step 3, Profit. That's pretty good. So Master Plan gains you an amber when you play it, and when you play it, you put a card from your hand face down underneath it, and then on a later turn, you can Omni uh, to play the card that was beneath Master Plan, and then you sacrifice Master Plan.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this is like a slow version of Phase Shift, sort of.
Yeah, I think I have one of these in
Hmm.
one of my decks, but it is so great to bait people with it.
Hmm.
Just have a card sitting under there like Gateway to Disc or something like that, or EMP Blast, or I don't know, something that really messes up your opponent when
Yeah.
they try to use your master plan.
Hmm.
It's great. um, but if you know that your opponent can't mess with your artifacts, you look at
Yeah.
their deck list, you see that they don't have any nexuses, poltergeists. Um, uh, they don't have like snake lifter in their deck or anything
Hmm.
like that. Um, you can put great cards under here and just be able to wreck at any time during the game with a really powerful card.
Yep. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. It can be very good. Just depends on what you put under there. Cool. So next up is Safe Place, which gains you name when you play it. It's an artifact, and it's the equivalent of Pocket Universe.
Hmm.
Um, so you can exhaust it to move an amber from your pool to it, and when you're forging, you can spend money from it.
Yep. Another really similar card, like you mentioned, card. There's a lot of similarities between the two houses.
Yep.
It's not a super safe place to keep
Right.
your amber, having it be out in the open there. It does lower the amount of amber pool, so that can have some advantages.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, that is the trade off. So you expose your amber a little bit to being either taken by your opponent or used by
Right.
your opponent. Um, Obviously, if your opponent uses poltergeist, it's effectively to destroy this because the amber that they gain from that poltergeist gets put onto safe place before it's destroyed. So There's
Right.
that. But
But the amber that was on here evaporates.
yes, the
Yep.
amber. If this artifact leaves play, the amber that's on it is gone,
Yep.
which definitely does not feel great.
Right. Yep. Yeah, because the capture rules apply to creatures, but they don't apply to artifacts. Yep.
Correct. Yes.
Cool. All right. Next up, we have the sting, which I think, if I read right, was a major component of Rachel Trimble's win over there in Eindhoven.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's an artifact. You play it. You get an amber. You skip your forge a key step, but you get all amber spent by your opponent when they're forging keys, and you can just spend an action to sacrifice it. Which, why would you want to do that, Mark?
Yeah. So being able to take all the amber your opponent is using for a key is it's totally crazy.
That's a lot of amber. Yeah.
Especially if you're say using Lash of Broken Dreams or something
Right.
to pump up the price of a key, and you can
Right.
take all that when they're the only good thing that this card is the only that's a good thing about it. Bad thing about it is if you don't get it out early game, it's a useless card
Right.
because it becomes harder and harder to control how you use it.
Yep.
So getting it out really early is the greatest. In fact, in the finals, this card wasn't used at all. It
Mm.
never came out. So it um, yeah, because it most likely didn't come out early enough.
Now.
But
Mhm.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, so yeah. So the answer to why would you want to sacrifice it is because then you can get around to forging your keys. Um,
Yes.
one I ended up in a situation where I was playing against one of these online. They were raking up just tons and tons of amber with it. I happen to be playing a control the weak deck, and so I was able to, for a couple turns in a row, use control the weak to hold them off from using shadows to sacrifice the sting, and actually win that way because it turns out that I, having lots of amber doesn't help you unless you can forge. Um, so that's, I think, maybe the one way to deal with this is turn it
Hmm.
against them if you can, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
hard to do.
Basically, like a miasma on yourself.
Right.
But yeah, this there's actually a really cool little theme set of cards in Shadows with the
Hmm.
Sting, Smiling Ruth, and Key
Hmm.
of Darkness.
Hmm.
Those all are awesome. They work together really well.
Uh huh.
Key of Darkness, I assume, is to start the Sting, which is the
Uh huh.
motorcycle.
Hmm.
Smiling Ruth is the rider, and um, yeah, great little three combo there. There's not too many decks actually that have that combo of cards
Right.
though, so it's definitely a rare combo to get.
Hmm.
But yeah, awesome combo nonetheless.
Yep. Nice. Okay. So next up we have Bullet Eye, who is 2 power, elusive, and reaps to destroy a flank creature.
When
Boom.
I first started the game, I saw a deck that you had
Uh huh.
that had this creature in it. I was like, "Whoa, that is the most broken creature in the game." Not knowing a ton about all the creatures in the game,
Uh huh.
but yeah, being able to just straight up destroy a flank creature just by
Yeah.
reaping is still extremely powerful. It's not
Yep.
completely broken, but it's extremely powerful.
Yeah, and that I sold that deck, but if I remember right, it had Dusk Runner, and so it was not out of the question for me to have a Dusk Runner on the Bullet
Hmm.
Eye. Um, yeah, which is pretty good. It
Yeah.
turns out. Cool.
Not bad.
Um, Next up, we have Deep No Spymaster, which is 1 power elusive, and Omni. Choose a friendly creature. You may use that creature this turn. Pretty cool.
There was such a crazy game I was playing against one time. I was playing one time, and this guy had Dapno Spy Master out with an Urchin
Hmm.
that had Armageddon Cloak and Rocket Boots on it.
Okay.
And it took me like 4 turns to get rid of this combo where he could, on any turn, use
Right.
Dapno Spy Master
Right.
to reap with Urchin 2 times every single turn. It was crazy. It was such a great
That is
Amber
pretty funny.
generator. Yeah, it was really funny, and I couldn't get rid of the Urchin because it had Armageddon Cloak on it, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, it was really funny. It was
Nice.
pretty hilarious game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of, I mean, it's like a creature version of Dominator Bobble. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, easy to kill with damage, but has that elusive. Okay. Um, Next up we have Fagin, who is 3 power, elusive, and pure evil. And when he reaps, you return an urchin from play or from your discard pile to your hand. So that means if you have this on the table and an urchin in your hand, or let's say you have a speed sigil Fagin urchin, you can play the Fagin out, have it be ready, play the urchin, steal one, reap with Fagin,
Hmm.
return the urchin to your hand, and then play the urchin again. At which point you've stolen two, reaped one. It can get pretty crazy pretty fast.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. They're already halfway to your next key on that with just that amber,
Yeah.
without anything else going on.
Yep.
So, and you've effectively slowed down your opponent with the
Yeah.
two urchin. So, side note, the urchins look a lot better in this picture. For some reason. Maybe it's their situation that they're
Yeah.
next
See,
to
how could you?
the ugly Fagin. But
How could you secret needle those things? So, and then you start a turn with an urchin in play, and a seeker needle and a Fagin. You you
hmm
you reap with the urchin, you seeker needle it, you reap with the Fagin, you get the urchin back, and you play it and steal. And whew,
so good, so good.
it is. It is. Okay. Uh oh, and he's guaranteed to have at least 2 urchins with him.
Oh, that's very cool. I did not know that.
I'm pretty sure that's what they said. I think. Let's see. Is there? I'll double check it, but I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Fagin greater than or equal to 1. Urchin uh, equals 1. I think the answer will be no. Right? Yeah. There's none of that.
Nice.
And Fagin. Uh, yeah. Anyway, and it's possible. I've definitely seen decks with like Fagin and 4 urchins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's 600 of those. That's a thing that happens. Um, and yeah,
Fagin
there's
and
even
five
43 with
urchins.
5. Yeah,
Yeah.
so pretty crazy. Okay. Um, so next up we have now, and actually I think there's a little bit of diminishing returns there, right? Because you can only return one of them every turn, but
Right. Right. Most of
um,
the time, your opponent will not let Fagin stay out,
yeah,
if they can help it.
right.
So.
Cool. Yeah, so Mac the Knife has 3 power, elusive, and you can use Mac as if it belonged to the active house. Um, and then he can exhaust to his action, deal 1 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, gain 1 amber. Basically an Omni Seeker Needle. That's also a creature. It's weird.
Hmm. Yeah, it is a bit weird. He is a creature. I'm thankful that that's an action and not a rape ability,
Yeah.
because that's crazy. But the weird thing about him is that it says you may use Mac the Knife if it belonged to the active house. But I've had this guy get stunned due to um, phosphorus stars, um, and seen him get gets yeah get basically gets stunned on like
Hmm.
blinding light. Someone calls and on
Yeah.
Shadow's house, and he gets stunned again.
Hmm.
Still gets stunned. So that seems a bit weird to me. I would assume that after your turn is done, he goes back to becoming just Shadows.
That's a bug.
Um,
That's not how the
yeah,
rules work.
yeah, I wouldn't expect that to be the way it actually goes. So,
Yep.
um,
Nice.
yeah,
Cool. Next we have Selwyn the Fence, 3 power creature with fight or reap. Move an amber from one of your cards to your pool.
hmm,
Turns a capture into a steal, basically.
yeah,
That's pretty good.
yeah, great again, coupled with Old Bruno,
Yep.
and Skeleton Key. Both of those are awesome. Uh, it's a it is the first thing that came to mind was, oh yeah, this would be a great card coupled with Sanctum, which is true.
Uh huh.
But it is does Shadows does actually have a couple of cards that would work really well with. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
it is a pretty good card.
Yep. For sure. Okay. Yeah. And then next up we have Smiling Ruth, um, who is 1 power with elusive and has reap. If you forged a key this turn, you take control of an enemy flank creature.
Yeah.
And how often
Um,
does that go off?
Not too often. I have a deck with this card in it. Most of the time, I end up using this as Seeker Needle fodder or Pawn Sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
or uh, Relentless Whispers. That type of card.
Yeah.
It's not amazing, but it will get things done for you. So if you happen to be able to leave it out long enough, have it stay out long enough to be able to take control of a flank
Yeah.
creature, can be a huge deal. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That
yeah.
can be big for sure. Cool. Okay. Next we have Sneck Lifter, who likes to lift snacks.
It is my top five favorite cards of the game. Being able to take your opponent's artifact and just use it as your own, especially if you don't own the house. If the house that it comes from is not in your deck, being able
Yep.
to use it as House Shadows
Yeah.
is such a great ability. You don't need to
Yep.
call a different house to use that artifact. You just use it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. That's definitely pretty good. Yeah, I've had somebody use this on my customs office before, um, which was sad. Um, yeah, and I like how I think that snack might actually be made of rope or something.
Oh, hmm.
I don't know.
I'm
I
not
don't know what.
seeing that. It looks
Maybe
like it's
not.
like
Maybe it
a.
is a.
I think the snake is the thing that stole the item for him.
Oh, I see. Oh, he lifts the snack, but the snack lifts the artifact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Nice. Okay. Uh, and then last up we have an upgrade, Ring of Invisibility,
Mm-hmm.
which gains an amber. Very clear Hobbit reference here.
Very
Not only is
clear.
it in a dark cave, but we have the I put it down for just a second,
And the
which
fact that it's
is
named Ring of Invisibility is
yeah,
amazing.
yes. Although I don't think that Sauron's ring, that the One Ring actually had the shadows symbol on it, but he did like
Yeah, that was a
shadows.
creative license.
Yeah,
How to make a
yeah.
difference on.
Yeah, pretty good. So it gives the creature it's attached to elusive and skirmish,
Mm-hmm.
which can be pretty cool.
Yeah, fantastic.
Favorite target for this is Dodger.
Oh, definitely. Dodger is a fantastic card to put this on. Um, you could there's tons of other ones you could put it on Nexus. You know what? You could even take this card and put it on a really powerful creature. Say you put it on like
Overlord
a
Greckin.
staunch knight or an overlord Grecking, like something that is able
Yeah,
to hit just really hard and put elusive and skirmish on that. It's amazing.
yep. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, I think so. I I love shadows. I feel uh, like you said, bait and switch probably does sort of define uh, some of the wild and craziness of this game, and I feel like there's something about having these back and forths where you I'm stealing your amber, you're stealing my amber. I'm trying to kill your old Bruno or whatever. Just
Hmm.
really clawing stuff back and forth leads to a really interactive gameplay that's fun. And I think even some of those really crazy effects are why I love Keyforge because uh, games that where you could actually build a deck, those things would be way too powerful.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of really crazy abilities that would be very, very powerful if you could couple them together on purpose.
Yeah.
There would be a lot of decks that would have a lot of those, especially a lot of Shadows cards in it. But yeah, the randomness of the algorithm allows for such amazing games and combos, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining me again, Mark.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fun.
I always have a lot of fun. So it's great.
Me too. All right. Well, have a good night.
Thank you. You too.